scratching their heads this morning. Take a look. An Alaska Bureau of Land Management worker in Fairbanks was checking out the ice on Wednesday when he saw this. He recorded something moving up the river. Now, this video was posted to the Bureau's Facebook page. They admitted they're not sure exactly what it is. Then they added, "We're letting you be the judge."
Whoa.
And it's not something that has that ice on it?
Well, that's what I thought, but then look how it curves and it's all attached.
Now, with that strange thing spotted in Alaska's waters, raising big questions this morning. Could it be, yes, George, could it be an American Loch Ness monster? ABC's Gio Benitez is here. Gio, what do you think?
Prove it, Gio.
I agree with you, and I love that music, by the way. Listen, I'm not easily convinced by this stuff, but wait till you really look at this video. Many in Alaska wonder if it's the rumored relative of the Loch Ness monster. So on this Halloween, you decide. It's the 15-foot mystery, moving slowly and methodically through Alaska's freezing water, garnering almost 500,000 views on Alaska's Bureau of Land Management website. Locals asking if this is Alaska's own version of the Loch Ness monster, the much-talked-about China Chomper. One visitor to the site believes China is back, writing, "The China Chomper, it's back. It was like our own Bigfoot."
Overseas now to Italy, where the most powerful earthquake there in decades, striking an area already reeling from 3 other recent quakes. Take a look at this. The earth there falling away sharply, those cars nearly tossed over the cliff. The hilltop village behind it almost completely destroyed, and people running in panic yet again. ABC's Jennifer Eccleston is in Rome tonight.
The powerful quake causing buildings in central Italy to collapse in seconds. The power of the 6.6 magnitude tremor, the strongest in nearly 40 years.
The earthquake, when it struck, was measured at a magnitude of 6.6, bigger than August quake, one of the most violent in decades to hit Italy. It centered on a cluster of mountain towns, many of historic significance, already reeling from last week's aftershocks and the seismic activity of 2 months ago. The U.S. Geological Survey said the epicenter was 68 kilometers southeast of the Umbrian regional center of Perugia, close to the small town of Norcia. Tremors were felt in the capital, Rome, and as far away as Venice in the north. Norcia is famed for its Benedictine cathedral, which crumbled as members of the clergy ran to find open space. Buildings elsewhere in the town were damaged as emergency services rushed the injured to ambulances. But there is a limit to how far they can travel with those who need treatment.
We have big problems with road connections. The Salaria road is closed. The bridge near Pescara del Tronzo has collapsed. We have connection problems everywhere. We started immediately to check conditions. For this reason, the injured people from Norcia are being transferred by helicopter. We are working on this issue very quickly to improve the rescues.
Many of Norcia's residents had been evacuated following aftershocks on Wednesday, meaning they avoided the worst of the damage on Sunday. The nearby town of Amatrice was badly damaged by the seismic activity during the week. More buildings have now toppled. Many of those badly damaged are of historic significance. But there is an assurance they will be restored to their former glory.
We are fed up with being considered as bad, being seen as bad by the hierarchy or population. People have to understand that behind the uniform there are men and women. We are here to be respected and to protect the people.
The protesters marched on the streets of the capital, calling on the government to provide police forces with better resources, funding, and a change in regulations for self-defense. There were similar protests across the country, all organized by the police union in the past couple of weeks. The demonstrations were triggered when several police officers were injured during a riot in the southern suburbs of Paris. Their vehicles were set ablaze by a Molotov cocktail thrown by protesters.
And in Germany, where an arson attack on a center for refugees has injured at least 7 people.
One of the security officers tried to extinguish the fire and was slightly injured. According to eyewitnesses, a male suspect left the building immediately after the fire broke out and went to a nearby building.
Police say the attack on the accommodation center for refugees occurred in a Potsdam and Mittelmark district just outside Berlin. Fire started around 2 a.m. And police say the suspect has been arrested now. There have also been some reportedly 600 attacks on refugee shelters similar to this one throughout Germany so far this year. Most of the raids have been staged by far-right groups.
After a fish seller was reportedly crushed to death inside a garbage truck while trying to retrieve wares allegedly confiscated by police, protests erupted across Morocco on Sunday. The incident mirrored the death of a Tunisian fruit seller in 2011. The man's self-immolation was a catalyst for the Arab Spring that spread across North Africa and the Middle East that year. Sunday's demonstrations were smaller, but thousands of people gathered in Al Hoceima, the northern town where the incident happened. They also gathered in Casablanca and the capital of Rabat. According to local media, on Friday, authorities confiscated swordfish being sold by Muhsin Fikri because it was not permitted to be caught this time of year.
Reconstruire, de bâtir quelque chose qui se base sur la centralité des droits humains et de leur respect, eh bien, on nous dit non. Et là, c'est un ras-le-bol.
Iceland's election results are in, and Prime Minister Sigurdur Inga Johannsson has stepped down. Johannsson announced his resignation Sunday after his Progressive Party lost 11 seats in Iceland's 63-seat parliament. The country's anti-establishment Pirate Party, however, tripled its number of seats. The Pirate Party was created in 2012, and its platform calls for government transparency and protection of civil liberties, among other things. In recent months, the fledgling party has capitalized on the wave of public unrest with Iceland's government. That unrest comes from a couple of things, namely the financial crisis of 2008, which many say led to a strong anti-establishment feeling across the nation. Not to mention the scandal with Iceland's former prime minister earlier this year. In April, Sigmundur David Gunnlaugsson stepped down after his name was linked to the highly publicized Panama Papers.
Now, in South Korea, thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in central Seoul. They denounced South Korean President Park Geun-hye over recent influence peddling scandal. The protest was triggered by the leaking of top-secret state documents to Park's personal friend Choi Soon-sil. Choi does not hold any public office and is also being investigated for using her ties to Park to coerce money out of major conglomerates. Protesters are calling for Park to step down.
Today's performance is for citizens to express anger towards the situation in which Choi Soon-sil controls state affairs and President Park is being controlled. The citizens who are participating think that President Park should step down from her position as soon as possible.
At least 140 protesters were arrested near the Dakota Access Pipeline route after a day of clashes between police and demonstrators last Thursday. Now, some of the Native American activists arrested say they were kept in dog kennel-like enclosures and that police wrote identification numbers on their arms. One protest coordinator who was arrested, Makasi Kam Harinek, told the Los Angeles Times that police wrote a number on his arm and kept him and his mother in a mesh enclosure that appeared to be a dog kennel, which did not have any bedding or furniture.
Just recently, Nigeria recorded 3 new cases of the wild polio virus in the northeastern region, a region where Boko Haram insurgency made it impossible to extend healthcare to communities. There have been rising fears that more cases would spring, especially in areas still inaccessible. But lately, the insurgents have been on the back foot, and a huge swath of territories previously under their control have been recovered, and more communities have become accessible. And the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, says impressive progress has been made in immunization this far.
Coverage also has been found to be good, beyond 80% in most of the instances. In areas, local government authorities in which coverage has not been adequate, it's owing to security issues really accessing populations.
Nigeria was on track to be certified polio-free by 2017, but discovery of new cases meant it will have to wait a little longer. The highly infectious viral disease, which mainly affects young children, can result in permanent paralysis, and fears about it could cross borders within the Lake Chad region. So immunization exercises have been conducted simultaneously in bordering countries around the Lake Chad basin.
Vietnam has reported the first case of microcephaly in the country, likely to be connected to the Zika virus. According to the nation's health ministry on Sunday, a 4-month-old baby whose mother was diagnosed with the mosquito-borne disease was found in the province of Dak Lak. If confirmed, this would be the second case of Zika linked in Southeast Asia, the first case having been confirmed in Thailand. Vietnam so far has reported a total of 9 cases of Zika infection, and health authorities say more cases are expected to be confirmed in the coming days. Earlier this month, Vietnam raised the threat level for Zika and stepped up monitoring of pregnant women amid growing outbreaks in the region.
Pakistan has ordered an Indian diplomat to leave the country. It came just hours after India announced it was expelling a member of staff at the Pakistani embassy in New Delhi. The decisions come as tensions between the two countries run high over the Kashmir dispute. India accused the Pakistani diplomat of running a spy ring that collected security information along the border. Pakistan denied the allegation and declared an Indian diplomat persona non grata, giving him 48 hours to leave the country.
Russia loses its seat on the United Nations Human Rights Council. The General Assembly voted Russia out on Friday, October 28th. The Kremlin received 112 votes and lost its regional seat to Hungary with 144 votes and Croatia with 114 votes. This marks the first time one of the permanent 5 members of the Security Council failed to get elected on the HRC since its inception in 2006. Many governments criticize Russia for its military support for the Syrian government and accuse the country of conducting a bombing campaign on the rebel-held areas in the Syrian city of Aleppo. The Guardian quoted a Western diplomat saying they bomb a hospital one day, they run for the Human Rights Council the next, and they wonder why they missed the cut. Russia's 3-year term on the Human Rights Council will end on December 31st.
The U.S. military and Japan's self-defense forces have begun exercise Keen Sword 17, 13 days of joint military drills. It's their first since Japan's new security law took effect in March. And the new law has aroused controversy as it expands on the nation's military role. And Japan has sent some 25,000 personnel, 20 vessels, and as many as 260 jets. The Americans are deploying about 11,000 soldiers. The drills are taking place at sites throughout mainland Japan and Okinawa, and also the North Mariana Islands. Okinawa will stage a scenario in which the U.S. is at war with a third party, and Japan offers its assistance. And analysts say this is to prepare Japan's self-defense forces for involvement in similar situations.
The row over Jewish settlements in Palestinian territories ramping up. The country's education ministers urging Israelis to prepare to annex the lands if the UN Security Council passes any resolutions on the matter.
The UN Security Council's resolution should be a trigger to put this plan into action. Gentlemen, it is time to extend our sovereignty in the land of Israel.
Our Middle East correspondent Paula Sleer spoke to Andrew Farmer about this earlier. She explained what might have triggered the statement.
Well, in September, the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, said that Palestine would renew its strive to pass a Security Council resolution that would declare Jewish settlement activity in the West Bank as illegal. So these words that we're hearing now about annexation by the Israeli education minister are coming in response to those plans. But of course, it needs to be noted that Israeli settlements in the West Bank are illegal under international law. And the latest plan by Israel to build some 300 new homes for Jewish settlers has been met with criticism not only by the United Nations, but also by Washington and London.
garnering almost 500,000 views on Alaska's Bureau of Land Management website. Locals asking if this is Alaska's own version of the Loch Ness Monster, the much talked about China Chomper. One visitor to the site believes China is back, writing, "The China Chomper, it's back. It was like our own Bigfoot."
Overseas now to Italy, where the most powerful earthquake there in decades.
Strange sighting in Alaska has a lot of people scratching their heads this morning. Take a look. An Alaska Bureau of Land Management worker in Fairbanks was checking out the ice on Wednesday when he saw this. He recorded something moving up the river. Now, this video was posted to the Bureau's Facebook page. They admitted they're not sure exactly what it is. Then they added, "We're letting you be the judge."
Whoa.
And it's not something that has that ice on it?
Well, that's what I thought, but then look how it curves and it's all attached.
Now, with that strange thing spotted in Alaska's waters, raising big questions this morning. Could it be, yes, George, could it be an American Loch Ness Monster? ABC's Gio Benitez is here. Gio, what do you think?
Prove it, Gio. I agree with you, and I love that music, by the way. Listen, I'm not easily convinced by this stuff, but wait till you really look at this video. Many in Alaska wonder if it's the rumored relative of the Loch Ness Monster. So on this Halloween, you decide. It's the 15-foot mystery, moving slowly and methodically through Alaska's freezing water.
Guards striking an area already reeling from 3 other recent quakes. Take a look at this. The earth there falling away sharply, those cars nearly tossed over the cliff. The hilltop village behind it almost completely destroyed, and people running in panic yet again. ABC's Jennifer Eccleston is in Rome tonight.
The powerful quake causing buildings in central Italy to collapse in seconds. The power of the 6.6